What do you call a superhero with no sense of direction? Wonder Woman. What's going on, YouTube? It's Tuesday, past 10 a.m., which means we have our weekly vendor refresh restart inside of Apocrypha to go over the weekly vendor refresh. There's 3 of these bad boys. Don't forget to pick up. Ooh, don't jump. Pick up your coins off the table. Whatever. And restart with the Dwarven Scarab Head. Now, this thing's actually relatively straightforward to get. You just kill a monster inside of this area here, inside of the reach. So super easy. Barely an inconvenience, not worth 5,000 archival fortunes. And the actual scarab itself, I mean, it's neat in that it looks different than most dwarven themes, but I don't think it's worth necessarily all the hubbubalub, versus some of these other things. And now we have one of the leads that statistically the most of you are looking for. It is for Death Dealer's Feat, which is going to see probably a pretty good stock increase because now Max Mag, Max Sork Wardens with, subclass, they're going to be able to merge into a super max stat class. And Death Dealer's Feat is an absolutely fantastic mythic, but it is super annoying to get the Dragonstar Arena one because Dragonstar Arena cannot be speed ran very quickly because the rounds have preset times between them. It just takes too long. It's like 45 minutes minimum, even if you're cruising for a bruising. And even if you have friends that have thumbs, and I don't even have that. So for me, it's like 50 minutes to an hour. This lead was pretty annoying to get because the odds of you getting it on your first try are pretty low. And if you have to run it a second time, you're almost looking at, 2 hours to get one lead at minimum. So this is a lead that I would encourage you to buy if you love the Sorcerer, you love Wardens, you want to get into PvP, you like max stat builds. This will save you tons of farming. I think it took me somewhere between 5 and 6 hours to farm it, but it took my friend David multiple weekends to farm it, because he was farming it solo with his companion. So Lord only knows how long he spent in there. Next up, we have Chokethorn. So it's got, kind of like a spidery, little Chokethorn-esque vibes to it. And you can see it, some people have some listed, but it's a pretty low valuation considering it's not been in the vendor for a while. Part of that is because it's just relatively easy to get versus some of the other newer ones, but it's not been in the vendor for a while. So if you were to click on this bad mammoth gemma, again, all of these are listed below. You can see that the amount of listings, was crazy high back when it was able to be farmed at the end, Q3 of 2024. But then it just kind of, trickles down, and you can see the sales. People are like, yeah, I'll buy it. So at one point there were 83 or 88 listings and there's only 20 sales. So not something that people are generally purchasing very often. Although at one point, there was a pretty high suggested high for it, but only 20% of them were being sold. Should you buy it? Should you get it for your archival fortunes? It always depends on you and your personal preferences, but this is just the valuation metrics for this bad boy. Then we have these Praxises, which and blueprints and yada yada. A lot of people are like, oh, Jake, these are so beautiful. Sure, fine, whatever. The problem is that there's going to be people who A, already own these, and B, these are untradeable. You can sell the items once it's made. You could make a bajillion tables, but you're spending heartwood, mastic, stendar stamps, resin, and wax to do so. It's a pretty good entourage there of costs when it comes to making these tables. So yes, you could buy it, but if you want to buy it, make it for yourself so you're not buying it from other players. Because if you don't do that, if you try to come in making a profit, you might be sorely disappointed. Next up, we have Westweld treasure maps. Now, I just want to warn you that a lot of people might think this has got to be fantastic to turn them into gold. The problem is that it's the Westweld treasure maps that have the value because there's antiquities involved. So a lot of people, they want to roll for these rare antiquities. Like you could see that there's the 40 antiquities that you can get, when Westweld came out. Only some of them drop from treasure chests, and a lot of them are furnishings, but you can't trade those furnishings. So yes, you can get some really cool stuff like an alien window, and I'll link this in the description below so you guys can look at this stuff specifically, but you can't resell these treasure maps once you purchase them with archival fortunes. So if you want to start rolling to get some of these cool leads, to get, some of these really cool stuff, that's fantastic. I highly encourage it. But you're not going to be doing it in a way where you're actually profiting gold. So a lot of people have been waiting for a good treasure map now that the satchels have been changed for provisioning. This is not going to be the play to turn this into money, but you could turn it into some rare furnishing items. So that could be worth it for you. Next up, we have companion equipment jewelry. This is one of my favorite ones to roll for because even if you get a DPS trait, at least you can make a DPS companion down the road, versus if you get a DPS trait on a piece of heavy armor or on a weapon that's not attached to it, you're like, well, that's worthless. Here, at least, you're getting it on a jewelry piece, which you're guaranteed to need for all types of companions. So this is one of the better ones to roll for, in my opinion. However, a lot of times, I don't know why this is, but it seems like whenever they add companion equipment to reward boxes, it seems to always be jewelry that's dropping. So jewelry is on the ESO open market a little bit more than some of the other pieces as well. So keep all that in mind for your Brainal compartments. And no, you're not buying this deck fragment it comes from Volcanic Vents. No. Then we have our 2 books, which again, if I was to ever skip, there would be absolute riots in the street. It would be like opening a video without an intro pun. I would be massacred. Then we have Force, Heroism, Mitigation, and Cavalier's Charge. You guys know what I think about most of these already. Force is decent for solo play. However, if you're a solo player, you probably already have it. Heroism is great. It's one of the best PvP scripts in the game. But if you're a PvP player, are you really out here with a bunch of Archival Fortunes ready to just blow on this? Probably not. Mitigation's okay. Cavalier's Charge is okay. Certainly has some utilization, but it's not one that I would even, tantalize you with potentially purchasing. The only one that would stick out to me is Heroism. If I was desperate, the problem is if you're desperate, you're probably a PvPer, and if you're a PvPer, you probably don't have Archival Fortunes. And worse is if this was Telvar, this would be a different conversation. But don't worry, we'll get to that one later. Then we have our Archival Riddles, which is just a random fragment you get from the Archival Fortune. And then we have the Cartographer's Rucksack, which is literally that item you can buy because it drops from a public dungeon. It's worth like 2,000 gold. Don't buy this. Next up, we are inside the Scholarium, which is inside of Ivea, which is outside the plane of existence. If you just come over here, talk to this little bad man and jam it, he'll say, hey, let me sell you some scripts. Now, all the stuff at the top, again, is static. You don't have to worry about buying that because it's going to be there every week. We start with Evasion. Now, this might come as a hot take, but Evasion is not very helpful because you really don't evade as much as you think you would. So you can skip that. Shock damage, however, Sorks love them some shock damage. There's quite a few builds that love to do shocking things. And, I would actually encourage you, if you're a big Sork fan, if you find yourself, doing a lot of solo content, shock damage is great. The problem is, if you're doing a lot of solo content, you're probably going to just naturally get shock damage, but you're buying it with gold, probably good to have. You could build some really fun builds with it. And shock is just one of the favorite, focus scripts for me, and it's because I play a Sork, but I'm also very biased. Then we have Assassin's Misery, which you don't have to worry about. I mean, if you don't have any of these, you could certainly buy them, because if you get them again in the future as a duplicate, you could just quick sell them back for 1,000 gold. And then we have our Class Mastery, which is static and here every single week, so you don't have to worry about that one. And finally, we're inside the Imperial City, inside of the sewers. Again, if you're like, Jake, where are all these bad boys again? You can use our website, linked at the top, to help you find this place. And we start with this merchant here. It's actually our final merchant. And they start with some sets. Now, Vengeance Leech is interesting. So all of these sets are PvP sets purchasable with Telvar. I'm going to just tell you right now, don't buy any of these with Telvar. But it's still a fun opportunity to talk about why these sets are good and or bad. So as a 3-piece set, this is a unique set because most sets are 5-piece sets. You get health, and then when you kill an enemy, you restore health and restore magicka and stamina. This might seem pretty useless, and there's some merit to that. However, if you're actively farming something like an XP area that's a little more difficult, maybe you're farming like Black Rose Prison round 2, where you're constantly getting, hit by things and you're constantly killing things very quickly. If you want to have like a decent like farming set, this is not a bad one to do. Some people have talked about using this in arenas. I would encourage you to not do that because you would just want to use an arena build or a really good solo build. But all that to say, I think for XP farming, especially if you're doing like harder XP methods like Skyreach, where sometimes, the damage can stack up and you look like a fool if you get killed, it's a pretty decent set to use. Obviously, don't buy it for Telvar. I'm just telling you why I think you could use it. Next up is the Vice Cannon. It is actually a 5-piece set, so we're back to the 5-piece. It gives you stam, weapon, and spell recovery. When you deal crit damage to an enemy while behind them, you inject a leeching poison that deals 4705 poison damage over 10 seconds and heals you for 100% of the damage done. This can occur once every 10 seconds. Here's the problem with a set like this. A set like this is perfectly fine, right? But the problem is that if you're already, taking back shots at your enemy, why do you need to heal? Your priority is to kill them. That's like your number one goal right there. So to me, a set like this is just misguided. If anything, you should deal critical damage while in front of them. Then you might want to heal. Because then at least you're, fighting them head on using like a stam blade type thing, coming out of stealth, waxing them in the front, hitting them in the behind, just feels weird. Like, you're really going to pull up on another guy like that? I mean, come on. And then, why are you healing? You just hit somebody from behind. What damage are you taking? So, whole lot of like weird, obtuse things with this set. It's just trying to do too many different goofy things. You don't need to heal if you're hitting people from behind because they haven't turned around to hit you. So, and generally, your focus, if you are attacking people in that way, you want to just kill them faster, not worry about keeping yourself alive. Next up is the Sharpened Spikes. This one comes from the Shapeshifter's Chain, which comes from Spindle Clutch 2 Final Boss. I mean, it is a dungeon. It is a final boss, so you could save you tons of time purchasing it, but I mean, the Shapeshifter's Chain is pretty much just a generic werewolf mythic that gets beaten out by literally the Oaken Soul Ring. Maybe they'll nerf it for that very reason in the future. Maybe they'll, nerf the Oaken Soul Ring. Maybe they'll buff this bad boy. But there's new mythics coming out too that look like they could also be used for werewolves, so this is probably a skip. Next up is certainly an annoying lead to have to get because it requires you to go through specific nodes, and I just have the worst luck whenever I have to do that. But you're also not getting a mythic that is very helpful. So if you sprint, you gain the ability to pass through enemies. Enemies pass through, become charmed, removing their ability to attack or cast as they move towards you. And then charming an enemy restores some resources to you and heals you. So there's a whole bunch of weird nonsense here. Honestly, the best utilization for this set is using like a Craglorn farming build. And that's not really what you want to hear if you're going to be investing your time to get 5 leads. Worth of effort. Then we have Gratwood treasure maps on its base game. Not enough good stuff there to even justify 6,000 Telvar. Then we have our 2 rings of the sets that we talked about above, so those are skips as well. But then we have Berserk Protection, Taunt, and Anchorite's Cruelty. Now, none of these are essential, especially from a PvP perspective. And you might wonder, why am I thinking first and foremost from a PvP perspective? Well, PvPers have Telvar. PvE players usually have Archival Fortune, so that's the mindset that I'm usually in when I start. Berserk, easy to get so many different places. Protection, also easy to get from different places. Yes, it could be used in different ways. Yes, it's kind of okay. Is it worth going to be the Telvar? Probably not, but it's, you consider it. Taunt, I mean, who are you taunting? And our Anchorite's Cruelty is probably the exception. The only problem is it's going to be a little expensive in there for you if you don't already have it unlocked on another character. It is great. I actually use it on my spammable, but it's expensive. And we finish on the Fragment of Madness, which is not one that you really need to worry about. I don't know why it's shifted over, but the Fragment of Madness, you can see, is you just go grab that bad boy relatively straightforwardly. From right here. So you will have to go farm the Vaults of Madness. However, you just have to do it once, and it's a base game dungeon. So the difficulty level these days are like cupcake levels of difficulty compared to like the newer dungeons. I remember when White Gold Tower was added, and we thought that was like the pinnacle of difficulty and power creep. How wrong we were, with what they could come up with in the future. But that, ladies and gentlemen, has been our weekly vendors. To give you a quick recap, Death Dealer's Feat. If you ever think you want to be a warden or sorcerer in PvP, trust me, you want to get that mythic lead, because if not, you could spend 10 plus hours trying to get it and blowing out your brains. Now, granted, the Maelstrom Arena weapons are certainly not the worst thing in the world to be slowly adding to your sticker book, but your sanity draining from you will not be very good. Heroism is also another interesting shout to kind of consider. I think getting Heroism could be good. Anchorite's Cruelty, also another interesting, idea if you're very interested in getting into PvP. It is a pretty good one to be able to slap on different skills, but overall, those are the key things. The biggest key is going to be the Dragon Star Arena lead. I know I've said it multiple times, but you will likely regret in the future if you do not get that lead. Trust me. I didn't want it initially because I was a Gaze to Sit This fanboy and a Markin Ring fanboy. My eyes were open when I got it. The only reason I even got it is because I was helping my poor friend David try to get it. And he took him 10 plus hours to get it over multiple weekends. I don't even know how many hours he spent. So as always, though, too, we're doing our 3 giveaway drawings. We're on the road to 30,000 subscribers. Huge milestone. We're in the final home stretch, final 1,000 subs. So please hit the subscribe button and be entered into our first drawing. Second drawing is going to be for a random comment / like on the video. So please do both of those things. Helps out tremendously. And the third thing is look for a hidden word be flashed upon the screen. If you're the first person to find and comment that word, you will win. There's 1 word minimum hidden on a video throughout the month. So if you find it, absolutely fantastic. Just be the first person to comment it. Thank you guys so much again for watching. As always, I will catch you later. I believe Twitch drops might be open later, so we might do a live stream. So if you have ideas for what you want me to stream or talk about or do or go through, maybe we'll go through the patch notes. Who knows? And I'll see you there. Bye, guys.
You better remember to like and subscribe to Jakeclips. Or you should. I might have to pluck your eyes if you don't. Or, better yet, I'll skip rope with your entrails. Do it now. Subscribe. Ta-ta. Off with you.